Welcome to the Funeral Channel Network podcast. We are back in the deep dive. Usually when we sit down to talk about technology, we're in a very specific headspace.
Yeah, very functional headspace.
We're talking efficiency, we're talking speed, we're obsessing over, the latest shiny gadget that's going to optimize your workflow or shave seconds off your commute.
That's all very cool. Calculated.
Exactly, strictly utilitarian. But today is different. Today we're looking at a specific intersection where hardware, literal, plastic, metal, silicon, and ink crashes headfirst into one of the most intense, raw human emotions we experience.
We are exploring the collision of engineering and grief.
It's a heavy one.
It is. It's a fascinating and, frankly, a very heavy juxtaposition. You don't often see emotional intelligence and printer stepper motors in the same sentence.
Yeah.
But that's exactly where we're living today.
And I want to set the scene for everyone listening because I think this is a scenario that is unfortunately all too common, but it's rarely talked about in tech circles.
Yeah.
We're looking at source material from the Funeral Program site, which is essentially the authority on this very specific niche of design and printing. And the scenario they paint is, well, it's vivid.
It's not a boardroom. It's a living room. It's a crisis point.
Picture this. It's 2:00 a.m. The house is quiet, but it's that heavy, oppressive kind of quiet where you can hear the refrigerator humming, and it sounds like a jet engine. You've lost a loved one just a few days ago. The grief is still that fog, that absolute disorientation where you forget to eat, you forget to sleep, and you're sitting at your computer, bathed in that blue light, tasked with printing the funeral programs for the service the next morning.
Which, let's be honest, is already a high-pressure situation even without the grief.
Oh, absolutely.
You're exhausted, your cognitive load is just maxed out, your executive function is barely online, and you're trying to perform a task that feels incredibly high stakes because it's a tribute.
It's the final thing you can do for this person. It's an act of service.
Right. And you've got the design done. It looks beautiful on the screen. The pixels are perfect. You've got this lovely photo of your grandmother or your dad smiling, looking like themselves. You hit print.
And then the nightmare starts. The paper jams. It makes that horrible crinkle crunch sound. That sound, the sound of machinery eating money and time.
Ugh, it's a visceral sound. It sounds like failure.
Or it comes out and the beautiful portrait looks like a ghost because the colors are all off.
Oh, that's the worst.
Or, and this is the classic, it cuts off the top of their head because the margins were wrong.
And in that moment, at 2:00 a.m., that isn't just a technical failure. That feels like a personal failure.
Yes.
It just amplifies the grief. It turns sadness into frustration and panic. And the core philosophy of our source material today is really compelling. They frame this whole discussion not around tech support, but around reducing stress through preparation.
And that's the mission of this deep dive. We're going to decode this. We're going to debunk the myth that any printer will do. We're going to explain why that expensive laser printer in your office, the one you think is the good printer, might actually be the absolute worst tool for this job. And we are going to get into the nitty-gritty physics. I'm talking thermodynamics and mechanical engineering of why the paper's path matters more than the brand name on the box.
It's really a masterclass in how hardware specifications translate directly to emotional outcomes. When the tool works, the grief can be processed. When the tool breaks, the grief gets interrupted.
So let's start with the object itself. The funeral program. I think in the digital age, we tend to overlook paper. We think of it as disposable, ephemeral.
Right. You read an email, you delete it. You see a tweet, you scroll past.
Yeah, we're conditioned to think of information as fleeting. But the source material makes a really strong point right out of the gate. A funeral program is not just a schedule. It's not a meeting agenda.
No, absolutely not. And this is a critical distinction that changes how you approach the engineering of it. The source defines it as a keepsake. Think about that word. Keepsake.
It's designed to be kept.
It is. The experts at the funeral program site point out that people simply don't throw these away. They take them home, they put them in their Bibles, they put them in memory boxes, they slide them into photo albums next to wedding pictures.
I've seen this. I was looking through my grandmother's Bible a few years ago, and it was thick with them. Programs from 20, 30 years ago.
Wow.
Some of them were yellowed, the edges were soft, but they were still there. They were treated like artifacts.
Exactly. And that longevity dictates the quality requirement. If you're producing something that's meant to last for decades, that's meant to be a tangible anchor for memory, you just can't treat it like a temporary office document.
There's a subconscious signal of quality that happens when we touch paper.
There is.
Okay, let's break that down, that subconscious signal, because I think we've all felt it, but we rarely articulate it.
It's haptic perception. It's immediate and primal. Our fingertips are incredibly sensitive sensors. When you hold a standard piece of 20-pound copy paper, the stuff you use for printing out a recipe or a shipping label, it has no structural integrity.
It just flops.
It flops. It's translucent. You can see your hand through it if the light is right. If you hand that to someone at a funeral service, even if the design is beautiful, the tactile experience says, this is temporary. It says unfinished.
No.
It says bureaucracy.
Unfinished. That is definitely not the vibe you want for a final tribute. It feels
Um,
almost disrespectful, doesn't it?
It does.
Like you didn't care enough to give it weight.
It creates a dissonance. You're celebrating a life that had weight, that had substance, but you're handing someone something flimsy. Conversely, when you use the right materials, heavy cardstock, proper margins, rich color, that object communicates intention. It communicates respect. It says, this person mattered, so we took the time to make this object matter. The source material really emphasizes that a well-printed program communicates love without using words.
It's the physical embodiment of dignity.
That's it.
So, if the goal is dignity and longevity, we run into our first major hurdle, the hardware. This is the fork in the road moment. Most of us have a printer, or we have access to one, and usually the debate is between the two heavyweights, inkjet and laser.
The eternal battle. The two dominant species of the printing world.
Why? And here is where I think a lot of people make the wrong call based on their office experience.
Absolutely.
If I'm in a corporate environment, I love a laser printer. It's fast, it's crisp, it churns out 50 pages a minute, it smells like ozone and productivity.
Feels professional.
It does. So the natural assumption is, I want the best quality for mom service, I should use the laser printer.
And that assumption is logical, but in this specific context, it is fundamentally incorrect. The verdict from the source material is clear. Inkjet is the preferred choice for funeral programs.
Okay, we need to bring this down because that feels counterintuitive to a lot of people who see inkjet as the cheap, noisy thing they had in college. Why does the mighty laser printer, the workhorse of the world, fail when it comes to a funeral program?
It comes down to physics. Specifically, two things: heat and mechanics.
Yeah.
Let's look at how a laser printer actually puts an image on a page. It's not ink, it's toner. Toner is essentially microscopic plastic dust.
Plastic dust.
The printer uses a laser to draw a static charge on a drum. The toner sticks to the static, and then, this is the key part, it goes through the fuser.
The fuser, that sounds like a component of a nuclear reactor?
It's intense. It's basically two heated rollers that press the paper at high temperature, around 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 200 degrees Celsius, to melt that plastic dust onto the paper fibers.
Wow.
Now, that's fine for standard, thin, 20-pound paper. It passes through quickly, the heat dissipates. But funeral programs are typically printed on cardstock, thick, heavy paper.
I see where this is going. You're taking a thick, fibrous material that contains a certain amount of moisture, and you're blasting it with 400-degree heat.
Exactly. And what happens to moisture when it hits 400 degrees?
It's gone.
It evaporates instantly. This rapid dehydration changes the structure of the paper fibers. The source material notes that laser printers often cause significant curling on thick cardstock. You want your program to lie flat, to feel substantial. But if you run it through a laser printer, it often comes out looking like a taco shell.
Right, it's got that permanent curve to it.
It does. It fights you.
That is so true. I've tried to fold a laser printed card before, and it just wants to spring back open. It feels tensioned. It doesn't want to be a booklet. It wants to be a scroll.
And there's also the issue of cracking. Because toner sits on top of the paper like a layer of melted plastic. It's not absorbed. It creates a brittle shell. So when you try to fold that heavy cardstock, the paper fibers bend, but the plastic toner snaps. You get this ugly, ragged white line right down the spine of your program where the image is cracked off.
So it looks worn out before you've even handed it out.
Exactly.
And we haven't even talked about the image quality itself. We're talking about photos of people here.
Right. Laser printers are optimized for sharp text and bar graphs. They're binary beasts, black or white, toner or no toner. They use dithering tiny dots to create the illusion of gray, but they struggle with continuous tones.
So they flatten photos.
They flatten them. The contrast gets blown out. So your loving portrait, which might be an old, slightly fuzzy photo to begin with, ends up looking like a photocopy. It has that office handout feel. It looks bureaucratic, not artistic.
Bureaucratic is definitely the enemy here. So inkjet takes the crown. Why? What is happening at the microscopic level that makes it better suited?
It's versatility and aesthetics. An inkjet printer works by spraying microscopic droplets of liquid ink, we're talking picoliters in volume, onto the paper.
Keyword,
Yeah.
liquid.
Liquid. It soaks into the fiber slightly rather than just sitting on top like a crust.
Yeah.
This allows for much better color blending. You get smoother transitions in skin tones, better depth in shadows. It looks more like a photograph and less like a document.
And I'm guessing the heat issue isn't there.
Correct. Inkjet is a cold process, generally speaking. No fuser means no warping.
Right. You can run much heavier cardstock through an inkjet without it curling up. It remains flat. And because the ink is absorbed into the fiber, when you fold it, you don't get that cracking along the spine.
The image bends with the paper.
It's flexible. That's a huge distinction.
That's a huge distinction. It sounds like inkjet is just more organic in how it interacts with the material.
That's a great way to put it. It integrates with the paper rather than dominating it.
But it's not just about the type of printer. The source material outlines 3 massive pitfalls, what I'm calling the triad of despair, that families fall into. And again, this isn't about shaming anyone. It's about preventing that 2.0 AM panic attack. These are the unknown unknowns.
Absolutely. Most people don't know these are problems until they are holding a ruined stack of paper and the clock is ticking.
So mistake number 1, the paper assumption.
Yeah.
What is this?
This is the belief that paper is paper. You go to the office supply store, you see a nice package of premium cardstock, maybe it's 80-pound or 100-pound weight. It feels nice in your hand, substantial, authoritative. Right.
You buy it, you come home, you stick it in your standard $60 printer that you've had since 2018, and you expect it to work.
And the printer goes, nope.
It jams immediately. Or worse, it feeds halfway and then gets stuck, tearing the paper and leaving a shred of heavy cardstock deep inside the rollers that you need tweezers to get out.
Why does this happen? Is the motor just too weak?
It's torque and friction. A standard printer is designed for 20-pound paper. The rollers are calibrated to grip that specific thickness and weight. When you shove a 100-pound sheet in there, the pickup rollers just can't get a grip.
They just spin.
They spin and burn rubber against the paper. You can sometimes smell it, or they grab it unevenly. It's like trying to tow a boat with a sedan. You might move it an inch, but you're going to strip your gears.
And the expert insight here is that this is the #1 source of wasted time.
And wasted paper, wasted ink, and skyrocketed stress.
Okay, mistake number 2. This one drives me crazy personally because it feels like a lie. The borderless misunderstanding.
This is a classic case of marketing fine print versus reality.
Oh, yeah.
You buy a printer, and the box says in big, bold letters, borderless printing, lab quality photos.
So you think, great, I can print my design all the way to the edge of the paper, just like a magazine, no ugly white stripes.
You think that. But then you try to print on a standard letter size sheet, 8.5 by 11 inches, which is what almost all funeral programs are. And suddenly you have a 1/4-inch white margin all the way around.
It forces a border.
It forces one.
It ruins the design,
Oh.
especially if you have a background color like a soft through sky or a floral pattern or a full bleed photo. It looks like you made a mistake.
It looks amateur.
Yeah.
And you check the manual, and it turns out that borderless feature only applies to 4x6 or 5x7 photo paper,
Tiny size.
small sizes. The printer literally cannot do borderless on full-size paper. It's a hardware limitation.
Why? What is physically preventing it?
So to print borderless, the printer has to spray ink slightly off the edge of the paper. It's called overspray. That ink has to go somewhere. It can't just float in the air. It usually goes into a specifically designed sponge pad inside the machine. If the printer doesn't have that sponge pad extending the full width of 8.5 inches, it won't let you print to the edge because it would just be spraying ink onto its own internal gears.
That is such a gotcha. Imagine discovering that after you've already bought the printer and the paper.
You're stuck.
You're stuck trimming 100 programs by hand with scissors.
Which, at 2 AM, is a recipe for crooked lines and tears. It adds hours to the process.
Okay, mistake number 3. Color accuracy neglect. This brings us back to the emotional weight.
Funeral programs are portrait-heavy. For many attendees, the image on the front of that program is how they will visualize the departed for a long time. It's the focal point of the service.
It's the last time they see them.
It is. So if the printer turns their skin tone green or makes them look washed out and gray,
It hurts. It feels disrespectful even though it's just a technical glitch.
it really does. Bad printers, or printers with low-quality ink systems, often struggle with skin tones. Skin tones are incredibly complex. They aren't just beige or brown. They're layers of red, yellow, and blue.
And cheap printers introduce color casts.
Yeah, too much magenta, too much cyan. It creates a dissonance. You look at the picture and your brain says, that's not them. It breaks the connection. You want the photo to be a bridge to memory, not a barrier.
So we know the stakes, we know the pitfalls, now we need the solution. The source material provides what I'm calling the non-negotiable feature checklist. If you are the person responsible for this task, you need to check these boxes. And there is one feature that stands above all others. If you remember nothing else from this deep dive, remember this: the paper path.
The paper path. It sounds boring, but it is the critical failure point.
Walk us through this. Why does the direction the paper travels matter so much?
It's simple geometry. Most modern printers, especially the compact ones designed to look sleek on a desk, have a front-loading tray.
Right, you put the paper in the front, it comes out the front.
Exactly. Save space. You can push it up against the wall.
Sure.
But think about what the paper has to do inside the machine. It goes in, travels to the back, and then has to make a complete U-turn, a 180-degree curve around a small roller to come back out the front.
Like a roller coaster loop.
Exactly. Now, take a piece of thin copy paper. It's flexible, can handle that tight radius. Now take a piece of stiff, 80-pound cardstock. It does not want to bend 180 degrees around a 1-inch roller.
It resists. It wants to go straight.
It fights the rollers. This is where jams happen. This is where the paper gets permanent curl marks or roller tracks, those little indented lines across the photo. The solution is what the source calls a rear feed or straight-through path.
Describe that setup.
So usually this means there is a tray at the back of the printer that sticks up at an angle. You drop the paper in the top back, gravity helps it down, it passes under the print head, and it comes out the front.
It's a straight line, or at least a very gentle curve.
Precisely. The paper never has to do a U-turn. A rear feed allows the cardstock to remain flat. This prevents jams, it prevents smearing because the paper isn't snapping back against the print heads, and it keeps the paper flat for the final product.
So this is really the number one thing.
The expert call to action here is that this is potentially the single most important feature to look for. If you are printing on cardstock, get a printer with a rear feed.
It's such a simple mechanical difference, but it changes everything. Okay, feature number 2, verified weight support.
This is about moving beyond the fluff on the box and looking at the spec sheet. You need to see explicit support for the weight of paper you are using. But here's the tricky part. Paper weight is confusing.
Oh, it's a nightmare. Pounds, GSM, cover, text, index. It's like a secret code designed to confuse us.
It is. You might see 80-pound text, 80-pound cover. They sound the same, but they are completely different thicknesses. 80-pound text is like heavy, stationary, flimsy. 80-pound cover is like a business card stiff.
That is incredibly confusing. Why is it like that?
It's an archaic system based on the weight of 500 sheets of that paper in its uncut size, which varies by paper type. But we don't need to get into the history of paper making.
Okay, good.
What you need to look for is the metric measurement. GSM, grams per square meter.
So GSM is the universal truth.
GSM is consistent. It measures the density of the paper regardless of the sheet size. 80 GSM is standard copy paper. 250 GSM is cardstock. You want to look at your printer specs and see media weight support, up to 300 GSM.
And if it says up to 120 GSM...
Do not put cardstock in it. You will break it.
So ignore the pounds if you can, and look for the GSM number in the manual.
Always read the manual. The source emphasizes checking the detailed specifications, usually found in the back of the manual or the technical specs tab on the manufacturer's website. If it doesn't explicitly say it handles cardstock or heavy media, just assume it doesn't.
Got it. Feature number 3, true borderless on letter paper. We touched on this, but how do we verify it?
You have to look specifically for borderless letter or borderless 8.5 by 11 first. But here's a nuanced warning from the source.
Uh-oh.
Some printers achieve borderless printing by cropping the image. They basically zoom in slightly, maybe 3% or 5%, and overprint the edges to ensure there's no white space.
Oh, that's scary. So if you have text right near the edge...
It gets chopped off, or the top of the head in the photo gets chopped. We call this overspray expansion.
Right.
You need to verify the settings. Usually there is an amount of extension setting in the driver where you can tell it not to zoom in too much. But the key is ensuring the hardware supports borderless on the full letter size to begin with.
Feature number 4, ink tank tech. We're seeing a shift here in the industry, aren't we?
We are. For years, we had those terrible tricolor cartridges. You're the ones, a single block of plastic that contained cyan, magenta, and yellow.
I hate those with a passion. Because if you run out of yellow...
You throw the whole cartridge away, even if you have plenty of cyan and magenta left. It's incredibly wasteful and expensive.
And a quality issue for this job.
Huge quality issue. Let's say you are printing a program with a forest background. You are using a ton of cyan and yellow to make green. If that tricolor cart runs low on yellow, the colors start to shift weirdly in the middle of the batch.
Suddenly the trees look purple or blue.
Exactly. And you might not notice until you've printed 20 of them. The recommendation is to look for individual ink tanks, separate cartridges for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, or, even better, the new tank printers, where you literally pour ink into reservoirs.
These generally offer better quality too, right?
Yes, individual tanks allow for better color mixing and consistency. And from a cost perspective, if you are printing 100 programs, you are going to burn through ink. Being able to just top up the black or the cyan saves a fortune compared to buying 5 new tricolor cartridges.
And it's better for the environment.
A lot better.
Okay, feature number 5, manual controls. This sounds a bit intimidating for the non-techie.
It doesn't have to be. It just means you need a printer that lets you tell it what to do, rather than one that thinks it knows best.
Smart printers are often the enemy here.
They are. The printer thinks, oh, you're printing a document, I'll use fast draft mode to save ink. Or, I detect plain paper, even though you put cardstock in. You need to be able to go into the driver and say, no, this is heavy matte paper. This is high quality. Do not scale. Do not crop.
Does changing the paper setting in the software actually do anything physically to the printer? Or is it just color calibration?
Oh, it absolutely changes the physical behavior. When you tell a printer, this is matte cardstock, it might widen the platen gap, the distance between the print head and the paper, so the head doesn't scrape across the thick paper.
Oh, interesting.
It might slow down the feed speed to allow more drying time. It might lay down more ink to saturate the thicker fiber. It's not just a label, it's a mechanical instruction set.
So if you don't have manual control, you're at the mercy of the default settings.
Which are almost always wrong for this use case.
Let's pivot to the paper itself. We've talked about the machine, but the ammunition matters just as much. Section 5 of our deep dive is paper selection.
And here we have a weight class breakdown. The source simplifies this nicely. Generally, you are looking at 2 categories. First, you have 65-pound cardstock.
This is the lighter end of heavy, right?
Correct. It's significantly thicker than copy paper, but it's still flexible. This is ideal for bifold programs, the ones you fold in half like a book.
Okay.
It's thick enough to feel quality, but thin enough to fold cleanly without cracking at the spine. It has a nice snap to it when you open it.
And then you have the heavy hitters.
The 80-pound or 100-pound cover stock. This is stiff. It feels like a business card or a formal invitation. This is best for single-page programs, like a flat card with printing on front and back, or for premium stiff cards.
Right. You don't want to fold this.
You generally don't want to fold this unless you have a mechanical scoring machine, because it will crack and look messy.
Now let's talk about texture, the finish wars. Matte versus glossy. I feel like everyone instinctively goes for glossy because photos are glossy.
That's the instinct. We think photo equals glossy. We grew up with 1-hour photo labs.
Yeah.
But the source material strongly recommends matte for funeral programs.
Why is that?
2 reasons.
Yeah.
First, the environment. Where do funerals take place?
Churches, chapels, funeral homes.
And what is the lighting situation in those places?
Usually. Lots of overhead cans, maybe some spotlights on the front, maybe sunlight streaming through stained glass.
Exactly. Direct, harsh light. If you hold a glossy sheet under a spotlight, you can't read the text.
It's a mirror.
It's a mirror. It reflects everything. It becomes hard to see the photo because of the glare. This is basic specular reflection. Matte absorbs the light. It's legible from any angle.
That is such a practical point I never would have thought of. You don't want people tilting the program back and forth just to read the hymn number.
No. And the second reason is emotional tone. Glossy feels. Commercial. It feels like a flyer for a nightclub or a sales brochure for a car. It's loud. It screams, "Look at me."
Whereas matte feels dignified.
It feels softer, more organic, more archival. It feels like art. The expert note here is that paper choice isn't about luxury for the sake of luxury. It's about readability, dignity, and longevity. It's about creating an atmosphere.
It's amazing how these subtle texture choices change the emotional reception of the object. Okay, we've got the right printer inkjet, rear feed. We've got the right paper matte, 65-pound.
Yeah.
Now, the human element, the user error factor.
Because you can have the best gear in the world and still mess it up if you don't follow the protocol.
The machine is only as good as the operator.
Exactly.
Let's run through the setup protocol. Step 1.
Select the correct paper type in the drivers. We mentioned this, but it bears repeating. You must tell the computer what you are feeding the printer. It dictates ink flow and roller gap. Do not skip this.
Right.
If you feed cardstock but tell the printer it's plain paper, you will likely smudge the ink because the heads will be too close to the paper.
Okay, step 2. Fit to page.
Turn it off. This is the enemy. If you designed your program to be exactly 8.5 by 11 and you leave fit to page on, the printer might shrink it by 3% to ensure it fits within its safe margins.
And suddenly your margins are weird and your alignment is off.
It throws off the symmetry. Select actual size or 100% scale. Trust your design dimensions.
Step 3, the test print.
This is the golden rule. Never, ever hit print 100 without seeing one first.
Ever.
Print one copy. Hold it in your hand. Check the margins. Check the colors. Check for typos.
There is nothing worse than watching 100 copies fly out of the tray only to realize you misspelled song or put the wrong date.
Or that the photo is too dark.
Mm.
Monitors are backlit. Paper is not. Images almost always look darker on paper than they do on screen.
Good point.
You might need to brighten the photo. The test print is your safety net.
Step 4. Dry time? This is specific to inkjet, right?
Yes. Remember, inkjet is wet liquid. If you print a photo-heavy page, that paper is saturated. If you grab it immediately and stack another page on top of it, the back of the second page will smear the front of the first page.
Offsetting. Disaster.
Yes, you need to let them sit, even just for 30 seconds or a minute. Don't stack them instantly. Give the chemistry a moment to bond with the paper fibers. Set up a drying station if you have to spread them out on a bed or a table.
And step 5, binding. If you're doing a booklet.
If you are doing a booklet, don't try to use that tiny stapler from your kitchen drawer. It won't reach the middle, so you'll end up crinkling the paper trying to force it.
Or stapling it from the outside in, which looks terrible.
Get a long-reach stapler. It's a specific tool that reaches 12 inches deep. It allows you to place a staple perfectly in the spine. It costs maybe $20, but the difference in finish quality is night and day.
It transforms the object from homework assignment to professional booklet.
That's it.
This brings us to the big decision. We've covered a lot of technical details, and I'm sure some listeners are thinking, this sounds like a lot of work. So we need a decision matrix. To DIY or not to DIY?
That's a valid question. The source material is very balanced here. They don't say everyone must print at home.
So who is home printing for?
Home printing is for the control freak, in the best sense of the word. It's for the family that wants total control over the output. It's for small to medium quantities, say 25 to 100 programs.
Right.
And crucially, it's for people who have the time to do those test prints and troubleshoot. It's for the person who finds comfort in the details.
And who's professional printing for?
If you need 500 programs, do not print that at home on an inkjet. You will be there for 3 days. Go to a pro.
Yeah.
If you have extremely limited time, like the service is in 4 hours, go to a pro. Or if you need specialty finishes like gold foil or embossing, you can't do that at home.
There's also the hybrid approach, which I think is smart.
Yes. Many families start DIY. They try to design it, maybe they print a proof, and then they realize, you know what, I can't handle the production part right now. And they take that file to a print shop.
And that's totally fine.
That is totally fine. There's no shame in outsourcing the stress.
But the benefit of DIY, if you can swing it, is that intimacy.
It is. There is something very therapeutic about physically producing the tribute, watching the pages come out, folding them. It's an act of service.
It's the last thing you can do for that person.
It allows you to spend time with their name, with their face, with their memory in a tactile way.
That leads us perfectly into our synthesis. We've spent the last hour talking about rear feeds and GSM and ink tanks. But as we wrap up, I want to zoom back out. We aren't really talking about printers, are we?
No, we are talking about care. The goal of choosing the right printer, doing all this research about paper paths and heavy paper support, isn't about being a tech nerd. It's about removing friction.
Removing the friction so you can focus on the feeling.
Exactly. The Funeral Program Site's philosophy is reducing stress through preparation. If you have the right tool, the tool disappears. You aren't fighting the printer. You're just creating the program.
The technology gets out of the way.
It gets out of the way. When the technology works, you gain confidence. And that confidence allows you to focus on the person being remembered rather than the paper jam. It's about clearing the path for grief to be processed without technical interruption.
Beautifully put. I want to leave our listeners with a final thought to mull over. We live in a world that is obsessed with the cloud. Everything is digital.
Hmm.
Photos are on Instagram, messages are on WhatsApp. We own very few physical things anymore. We're drifting away from the tangible.
We are.
And yet the funeral program remains one of the few stubborn physical documents we refuse to digitize entirely. We don't just email a PDF to the mourners. We hand them a piece of paper. Why?
Because grief demands weight. When we lose someone, we feel a void, a literal emptiness. And I think subconsciously we need to hold something in our hands that has weight and texture to counteract that loss.
We need to grip something.
We do. Proof of life, proof of memory,
Exactly.
ensuring that object, that piece of paper, is worthy of the memory, that it's beautiful and substantial and permanent. That is a final act of service. It's a way of saying this life was real and it is still felt.
And that is why the printer matters. Thank you for diving deep with us today.
Thank you.
We'll catch you on the next one. Take care of each other.